Thank you, Arthur. I got about a 3-hour talk, which I'm going to try to do in 15 minutes. And then I'll try to take a few of your questions if possible. My grandparents came to America in the big move of all Europeans in 1911 and 1913. So my grandparents were here 100 years ago. They left my father in the old country to take care of his sisters and his mother. And my father wasn't able to escape till 1949 when he came here and I was 6 months old. It's all about responsibility. My father spent all his life making sure his sisters were okay and his mother was okay. And when they were married, and he was able to marry himself and then come over. I grew up on the poor side of town. I grew up on 135th Street in Manhattan. And I learned what it was to work hard, because my father left at 10 o'clock in the morning and he didn't come back till 10 o'clock at night, and he was a busboy for Longchamp's restaurants, and he worked 7 days a week, 12, 13 hours a day. But he made sure the rent was paid, and he made sure that there was chicken on the table at least, and that his family was happy. That's what America is all about. I grew up on 135th Street. He made sure that I got an education. I went to public school. I went to PS 192. I went to Brooklyn Tech. And they gave me a great education. And then I went to NYU because I wanted to stay in the city. I had the congressional nomination for West Point, but I wanted to stay in the city because I was an only child. And my father and my mother looked at me and they said, "You're gonna leave us alone?" And I didn't want to leave them alone. So I stayed home and I went to NYU, and it was a Bronx campus. And I worked part-time, and that's how I got into business. But I had like a big brother that ran a store, and I was working on weekends, and I was working on Saturdays and Sundays, and I was working on summers. And he ended up giving me or selling me part of the store, because his uncle was a partner there, and he would never get along with his uncle. They would argue every day. If Tony bought 10 cases of oranges, he said, "That was a great price. Why didn't you buy 20? Next day, Tony would buy 20 cases of oranges. "You bought so many? They're going to go rotten." And I've seen those arguments in life, and when I took over, as long as we made a profit, his uncle was very happy, and we never had an argument in our lives. New York. I'm different. People say, "Why are you different than Bloomberg?" I wasn't born with a silver spoon. I wasn't born with a golden spoon. I grew up on 135th Street. I know what it is to be in our neighborhoods. My relatives grew up in Astoria, right up the block someplace. I came from the same neighborhoods you're from. When I talked to the Uptown Chamber of Commerce a couple days ago, I said, "I'm the same person you are." I was a store owner. I had stores up and down Broadway, up and down 2nd Avenue. I know the pain that we suffer, and a Bloomberg type guy never knew that pain, because he went straight from Harvard Business School or wherever he went, straight to Solomon Brothers. But overall, I think Bloomberg has done a decent job. I'm not here to criticize Bloomberg. I think he's done a decent job. I don't agree with those bike lanes in the city, and I don't agree with those mini cabs where I have to get into them one leg at a time. But other than that, he's done a decent job. But I said to them, especially the store owners, my stores get delivered by, we have a warehouse in Hunts Point Market. And for those trucks that come to my stores, I'm getting $5,000 a week in parking tickets. I have a certificate of occupancy to operate the store. Make believe this is the store. I can't park a truck outside for a half hour without getting a $100 ticket? That's ridiculous. If we have to, in our air conditioning system or anything like that, if the water tower goes out and it's out for 2 weeks, I get a $10,000 water bill. What the city has done systematically is, instead of saying we're raising taxes, they systematically have raised fines, they systematically have raised parking tickets, the whole gamut. And that's what I said to these Chamber of Commerce guys. I said, I feel your pain because I'm going through it. You know, I didn't go straight to Goldman Sachs or anything like that. I'm still, by the way, my dad did become a part-time waiter because he worked for one of the Italian restaurants. What was the name of it, Evan? A little further up. Oh, Jake, it starts with an R. It's a catering hall restaurant.
Ricardo's?
Huh?
Ricardo's?
Queens?
No, it's in the Astoria, right up there. Ricardo's, yes, yes. And you know, my father spoke fluent Italian, so he got along well, and he was able to be a part-time waiter. Look, I've been very successful. I've made a lot of money. Like I said, came from 135th Street. I have a great family. My daughter just got married to the grandson of a former president. So for this little kid from the little island in the Mediterranean that came over, I didn't do so bad. But I think it's time for all people that do well to give back to their communities, to give back to their city. You know, people jokingly said, well, Bloomberg worked for $1. I said, well, I'm going to work for 99 cents because I was a grocer. I don't need a job. I don't want a job. I just want to help. That's all I want to do, is I want to make sure that at the end of my 4 years, they're going to say, see that guy? He did a great job. And that's all I'm interested in, is a great job. I want to be put down in history as he worked his butt off, pardon my language, but he did a great job. I'm going to give a chance for everybody to ask some questions, but I was talking to some people before that are in the education business, and I promised to say a few words about one of my education policies. And I got criticized by it too. I believe that our school system, we're failing our kids. And we have to do something to make our kids do better. And one of the suggestions I had is our dropout rate is so high, the Board of Education doesn't want to really give you the real numbers, which is a shame. I suggested that in your sophomore year, that you have a choice. And the word is choice. We're not going to force anybody to do anything. You could choose to continue an academic career and go on the normal way. But I want another fork in the road, and life is forks in the road. The other fork in the road is do a public-private partnership and have a choice for these kids instead of dropping out. By the way, one of the reasons they drop out, they can't do some of the homework or the schoolwork, and they're so embarrassed to go back and face the other students. And they're so embarrassed to go back and face their teachers. They'd rather disappear and drop out. Well, here's the other choice. Instead of dropping out, you have a choice of going out, learning how to be a carpenter, a plumber, an electrician. And what's wrong with that? You know, plumbers, carpenters, electricians, if they work overtime, they can make $100,000 a year. You can be part of the American dream. Then you can have a family, raise children, and buy a house. You have a good choice. Versus dropping out and working for Walmart for $8 an hour. I mean, what would you rather do? Become a carpenter for $75,000 a year, or work for Walmart for $8 an hour? Then, for $8 an hour, you know what happens? Our kids are kept prisoners in their neighborhood. You know why? on $8 an hour, you can't go anywhere. You can't get married. You can't do anything. That is what you call as a prisoner of the old neighborhood, and it's wrong. I can go on forever, but I want to give you guys a chance to ask me a few questions, and thank you for having me today. I'll let you call on the people.
Bill?
Yeah, I understand as far as all the fees that...
Could you introduce yourself first?
Oh, William Balash, do a lot of work in the community. He's shortcut. I understand, yes, they go overboard with the fees, and that's a shortcut instead of doing things the right way. Instead of going through legislation to raise taxes, which looks bad, they just quietly hit you with all these fines. How would you change it? How would you do it? Because we still need the revenue to come in. We still need the money to run the city. How would you change it?
Well, I can't promise it we changed overnight, but let's do a study and find out how much all these things are. And what I want to do is be able to simplify the system, because for me to open up a store, I need 30 different permits. That is ridiculous. You got to simplify the process, and you know, we have a consumer advocate department. Maybe we should have a business advocate department. And that way, you know, people like Arthur could sit on the board and other Chamber of Commerces and advocate for the local businesses and see how we can fix it. It has to be a revenue neutral situation. I understand that. But if we get rid of some of the fraud that goes on, if you knew some of the fraud that goes on in our city, then shame on us. You know, it's like Washington right now. They're saying, oh, the world's going to come to an end because they want a $40 billion reduction. But let's put something in clear language. It's $40 billion on $3.5 trillion. You know what that is? That's a half a penny on 99 and on a dollar. Now tell me any management person that can't continue to run a proper business without laying off people, just tightening the screws a little bit, that can't run their operation or their division in government for 99.5%. Then I'll show you a failure in management. Thank you.
I have a question.
Please.
Just coming back to to your mentor and his point of view.
Murray Siegel. I still remember him like yesterday. And his exact statement was, let me see if I can remember it, that the prosperity of the community is directly proportionate to the prosperity of the business community in the area. So if business does well, people do well. Let me tell you what else I did with the Chamber of Commerce. I was chairman for 15 years. I believe myself to be a creator. I created 10,000 jobs in our company. I created the Columbus Avenue Festival. There was no Columbus Avenue Festival. I created it. And we had the first year, April 1977, we had 1 million people. I had John Campy from the Daily News co-sponsor it, and it was great. People loved it. It created, the budget for the Chamber of Commerce up to that point was $28,000 a year. We took in $250,000. And my wife at that time, Margot, was busy going up and down the streets, marking the streets with chalk because that was the space for the vendors. So I'm the guy that did the work, and she did the work. So and when we were finished selling all the spaces and creating it, we also had a booth. I ordered 25 cases of apples to come that day, and we sold the apples on Columbus Avenue, 3 apples, red delicious apples, of course, you know, red apple. We sold the apples, 3 apples for $0.25, and we sold out within 2 hours. And I love that kind of stuff. I love marketing. I love creating something better.
That's a good answer. Any other questions? Okay, I have one more question.
Sure.
What really makes you excited? I can see the excitement coming. What really makes you excited about New York City?
Well, you know, I'm sponsoring the new play, LaGuardia. Tony LaBianco, my friend, the Italian actor, is doing a special thing of 10 plays, 10 shows. And Arthur will make tickets available to you at my cost, as my guest, not my cost, as my guest for anybody who wants to come. You work it out with Evan. He does a 2-hour play about Mayor LaGuardia, which the first time I saw it about 6 years ago, I was so impressed, so inspired, that it inspired me that I want to become mayor of the city of New York and help make the difference. And you know how I compare that to? Bill Clinton, you know, I'm running as a Republican, but I was a Clinton Democrat. Bill Clinton's a personal friend. Several years ago, I was at the White House, and we were upstairs in the private quarters, and there's a picture on the wall of Bill Clinton shaking hands with John Kennedy, another one of my heroes. And I said, oh, look at that. He says, John, I was 14 years old. I came to the White House and shook John Kennedy's hand, and that's when I decided I want to be President of the United States too. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I have to run. Well, last question. I have to run because I'm going to be at the New York Post. They want to see me. That's dangerous. Yes, one last question.
One more question.
By the way, I took my political lessons from Bill Clinton. You know, if I didn't have that meeting, I'd be here for 3 hours.
My name is Luna Ramirez. My partner here is Jim Woods. We come from Information Technology High School. You actually see the building from here. That's the blue building over there. You talk about public-private partnerships, and
Yes.
we are very interested in that. We're launching a program that is 3 years long, starting in the sophomore year, that trains the kids in specific trades: web designing, Cisco, computer repair. But we don't have the funding to do it, and we want to do that public-private relationship, but we don't know where to go. What is your plan?
Well, if I become mayor, then you're in. If I don't become mayor, come see me, we'll help you anyway. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate Mr. Catsimatidis being here.